Listen, just want to welcome everybody to today's podcast, Pags Unplugged. I have a really special guest with me, Joshua Sun. We're going to talk about all kinds of fun stuff. I met Josh through a local real estate networking group, which is, a great way to meet new people in your area doing business. And I remember walking by, somebody was speaking and I walked by and he made an intro. And actually, I don't know if you remember this, Josh, but you were sick. You were sick. And I thought to myself, I'm like, how awesome is that, that he showed up? You probably didn't feel like being there, but you showed up anyways to give back to the community. And I just remember how welcoming you were. And so, I've been following you on Instagram ever since. And I see all the cool stuff you're doing, the TIC stuff. And I know you're part of a bunch of really, really high level mentorships, and I love that you're doing a lot of mindset stuff. All of the stuff that you share on social media, not only your posts but your stories. I find that there's a lot of value in there. You're also a fellow believer, which is awesome. You and I, have that in common. So I thought it would be really great to get you on the podcast today and just talk about, your journey in real estate investing.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Johnny. We did meet at a local real estate meetup, and you were one of the leaders. And my first impression of you was that, man, this is like one good-looking, cool dude, man. You got the hat, you got the tats, the look, man. And then I saw your page, and I saw you put Christian there, girl dad, and I have 2 daughters. So I'm like, and then I don't know if you remember this, but we started talking about funds, and you were teaching me about funds and fund to funds. So, Johnny, I just want to just give you a shout out. I don't think people know how much you're doing, and just your heart. Even as we talked, your heart was just all about, hey, I want to serve my audience. I want to help people who want to get started in real estate. So I just love that go-giver mindset. So first of all, I'm honored and thankful, brother, to be on your podcast. As far as my journey, I've been in the mortgage business, for 20 years now. I had a good GPA in high school. College, went to Duke, but was a failed pre-med. Graduated in 2001, where it was a dot-com bubble, and just was so lost and got into the K-Town party lifestyle before I was saved for like 8-9 years. Then I got saved, got into mortgage, just kind of, nobody grows up saying I want to be a loan officer, right? You just kind of fall into it by default. But then, we had a couple good years in COVID, but after that, my business started dropping. And last July, actually, I depleted my savings, and we actually had to tap into my HELOC. So it was a very stressful time for me and my wife. We fought a lot because of finances. But in March, I met Pace Morby, joined the Sub-2 community, and then joined Gator Method, which is kind of the private money lending. I thought, hey, I want to buy an own property, passive income, another income stream. And then so that I might call foreclosure properties, but I just kind of fell into the role of a capital raiser, and it's all by God's grace, but God has really just kind of taken me on a journey. And, I've made, again, not to brag, but just to encourage people what's possible in a very short time, just in the last 11 months or so. Made multiple 6 figures raising capital. I've been able to partner with a friend who's a broker to take my mortgage business over. We just do a split, so I still make a decent income from that, but I'm hands off. And now I'm in the process of starting a fund with Fund Launch. So yeah, a lot of exciting things, and just meeting cool people like you, and just doing deals, but building relationships.
So I love that, man. And you and I probably have a very similar story in this way. I worked for a mortgage broker for a while. I started as a loan officer in 20. I actually was doing business and brand consulting for a local mortgage company called Purpose Funding. They're a Christian mortgage broker, and the owner brought me in just to help with branding and marketing. And I saw how much money that he was making, and I was like, I think I'm on the wrong side of this. I think I should be doing mortgages because these guys are making, an absolute killing. And so, I jumped in and I was doing mortgages, and it ran. So I was part of that deal. And then my boss, Andy, one of the greatest mentors ever. God brought this dude into my life, just so incredibly blessed by spending the time I got to with him. He used to tell me, he goes, it's going to slow down and you got to be ready for it. He goes, I've been through a bunch of cycles. I've been in this industry for a really long time, as you have. And man, I will tell you, it didn't matter how many times he said that. I wasn't ready for it. January 1st, 2022, rates immediately started going up, and I was in the exact same boat where it's like, holy crap, I need to figure out how to keep income coming in, because the writing was on the wall. It was like somebody walked over and turned the refinance faucet off. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm sure you experienced some of that too. But I would love to know, in that moment when you were experiencing some of those things too, and it's hard to explain, I think, how it feels to be a dad and go through having the financial, like, oh my gosh, this is all on me. I'd love to know, where your head was at when you were going through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like just to piggyback off what you said, not only was the faucet being turned off and the mortgage was going down, when ChatGPT came out, I was like, okay, the writing's on the wall. They're either going to replace us or just systemize the process, hire somebody to manage. And then because we loan officers get paid too much probably. But yeah, I mean, having two young daughters in, we just bought our house in La Mirada, like 2021, July. So, but things got so bad that me and my wife really actually that had a conversation like, hey, we may have to sell our house. And that's just, so it got to that point. And then, as a father, you want to try to do whatever you can. And that's why I think when I met Pace Morby and heard Grant Cardone talk about like bonus depreciation, and creative finance, like that blew my mind. Cause I'm like, I've been in the real estate business, but I didn't know this. Right. And then now as I'm learning all these different skills, like digital marketing, personal branding, communication, leadership, all these things that you need to build a business. I'm like, I went to Duke. Why didn't I learn this at school? I had a good GPA. I thought I was smart. So my passion, Johnny, is kind of like, I wish I learned this when I was in my 20s. I would probably be a lot farther along, but so part of my passion is like helping people who maybe are more fit to be an entrepreneur, to learn these skills, to know that, hey, you don't have to stay at your W-2. I mean, some people are meant for the W-2, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just different fit. But for the people who may be more of a fit for entrepreneur, like I wish I could teach myself the things that I'm learning right now, like 10, 20 years ago.
So what was kind of the first step there, joining the mentorship, or what did you do? How did you initially just get going? How did you get the wheels off the ground?
Yeah, so I was in a social media mastermind called Forward with Neil Dingra. We had a retreat in Arizona. We get together twice a year, and Pace was a guest speaker there. And again, when he told me about creative finance subject two, that just blew my mind. And then so I looked into his program, knew about 7 or 8 people who joined it. They all said it was legit. Pace is a go-giver. And so I joined it, and then I got into his funnel. And then a week later, I was on his Gator Method webinar, which I'm glad I kind of like ended up joining, because I'm like the sucker. I buy everything. My wife's always like, like upsell, whatever. But then, yeah, from there, like I couldn't get a deal for like 3 months. So it was still pretty hard, but I was like getting up extra early, like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, just because I have to spend time learning the stuff before my kids wake up and get them to school at 7, you know how it is. And then, do the mortgage business during the day, because I got to keep paying the bills. And then, yeah, just like listening to stuff whenever I'm driving, or even giving them a bath, whatever. But then I did my first deal in June. Met like a local gator, and he needed a deal. He needed funding for a deal. I put in $200K from my HELOC, raised the other 250. It was 450 total, 100K from someone from social media who I've now become really good friends with. We're in multiple deals. Awesome brother in Christ as well. And then the other 150 was another brother in Christ from the Owners Club. So Owners Club, so I joined, sub 2, that was like 10 grand in end of March. Week later, Gator, that was 4 grand. And I went to Squad Up Summit in April. And then they launched Owners Club, which was a $30,000 mastermind limited to 400 people. Like sub 2 has like 30,000, Gator has like 11,000 now. I put all of this on a Amex Blue credit card, by the way, because I did not have the money. But I'm like, you know what? I just have to do it. I just have to believe in myself and just trust God will, because I was over the mortgage industry, bro. Like, again, the writing was on the wall. And then that was my first deal. And then a week after that, with the same person, he had to raise 1.6 million. I was able to raise 300K, 200 from social media, 100 from a mortgage client. So I'm like, oh, okay, like, this is like going okay. And I just kind of kept going down that path. So I've realized like there's just a lot of different ways to make money, that we call it avatars. Some people think it's only wholesaling or flips or something, but there's actually a lot more options for people who may be interested.
So explain to me, or maybe the audience anyways, like what does a gator do exactly?
Yeah, Gator is just a term that Pace came up with but basically it's a private money lender. And he says Gator because that's the way you take a chunk out of the deal. So you basically provide liquidity or money for real estate deals, because you're like a wholesaler, right? Like or part of what you do. And anybody who does anything well, whether it's wholesaling or it's flips, they naturally want to scale. And at some point, they're going to run out of their own money. So they need more capital to continue to scale, right? So there's always the opportunity, always a need for capital. And that's where if you don't even need your own money, because I don't have my money. I used 200 grand from my HELOC for the first deal. And I just raised money. But for raising capital, being a connector, you can make money or even get a portion of the equity in the deal. And then that's where you can provide value and get into the deal without having to go, find the deal, negotiate the deal, get it under contract or wholesale it. For me, at least, that's a lot easier. Everybody has their own strengths and, roles, right? I'm not saying one is better than the other by any means, but yeah, by raising capital, if you're a good connector, like you're good with people skills, you enjoy building relationships, you are okay with creating content, because I think that's a big part of it too, to build the trust. Yeah, that might be a cool avatar. And at least that's where I've kind of fallen.
So a gator will go in and maybe connect with a wholesaler like me, or if I'm going to flip a property and I can come to you and I'd say, hey, Joshua, I've got 2 or 3 flips going on. My liquidity is tight, like my personal money that I use to, pay for my family and my savings and all these types of things. It's limited. So I need capital for this deal over here. And then as a gator, you would go and either bring that capital to me, or you would go find it one way or the other. You're kind of the person who is bringing that capital to the deal.
Yeah, let's say you find a good property. You're like, hey, this is a really good flip. We put like 50K in it. We can make like 200K. But you're like, I don't have 50K because I'm already in all these other deals. And I'm like, hey, okay, cool. I don't have 50K, Johnny, but what if I bring in like somebody with the 50K? What can we give that person? Maybe it's, a certain interest rate. And then for me bringing in the capital, we can negotiate. Maybe, you can pay me $5,000 or $10,000. It's all negotiable, or I can get a portion of the proceeds, whatever it is at the end. So there's a lot of different ways to structure it, but that's me. So I can then go to my friends and family or post on social media, or, there's rules around that. So be careful, but just, go through my sphere and say, hey, here's this really good deal. There's an opportunity to invest 50K. The returns are X amount for, 4 months or 6 months or whatever it is. And then, yeah, as a capital raiser, I'm just kind of bringing the liquidity to connect the deal. So it's a win-win, right? You get liquidity to do your deal. You make money. I make a little bit of money. The investor makes money.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think a lot of people don't realize that real estate investors, only some of them are actually capital investors. You don't realize that guys, even at the highest level, usually really aren't even playing with their own money. Because even if you have a lot of capital, you always need more capital, because if you got a bunch of capital, you're probably doing some deals that require a significant amount. And so that's why I think it's so important in this business. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here a little bit, but it's really about, who is in your circle and your network, and who and who can bring the capital to the table for you. I would love to know, when you're bringing a capital partner, so anybody who might be listening who maybe wants to invest in a deal, how do you protect their funds?
Yeah, that's a great question. But before I answer that, I want to touch back on kind of capital raising. Capital raising for myself as a capital raiser, but to your point, Johnny, even if your thing is wholesaling or flipping, it really helps to be able to raise your own capital, because then you don't have to pay somebody else to bring in the capital for you. So I think capital raising to your point, has many benefits and is very necessary. I think that's a great question, because the number one reason I think why people don't invest is because they know they've lost money, or they've known somebody who's lost money, or they're stuck in deals for a long time. Like I'm stuck in a deal myself. So that's why I get presented deals very often, maybe like 3 or 4 times a week. There's one main deal that I'm comfortable raising for right now, and I'm invested in myself, and it's our Freedom Fund, which helps families save their homes from foreclosure. And the way we protect our investors is we have a proprietary structure, but then the first step is, let's say you're the homeowner, right? We get our leads from a loan modification company we've been working with for over 5 years. We underwrite the deal to make sure there's at least 35 to 40% equity in the deal. And then we go over the process with you, Johnny. Hey, here's our fee. And first step is, if you agree to it, we create an LLC that we control with the investor. We have you transfer your title over to our LLC. So from day one, we have ownership, meaning we do not have to go through a lengthy and costly foreclosure process, especially in California, to take control of the property and to sell it to recoup our capital. Our exit strategy is very strong, because the way we pay our investors back is then we come in, and my company with my partners, we buy this property from the LLC with a hard money loan at 80% financing. So let's say it's $1 million. So we get a hard money loan for 800K. We get investors for the down payment for the 200K. And then we take that $1 million, give it to the LLC. Let's say your house has an underlying mortgage of 600,000. We pay off the 600,000 mortgage. And then with the 400K in equity, in the same day, we pay back our investors the 200K, pay our fee, which is typically 10%, and we split it with the investors. And then the rest of it, we actually set up a reserve account for the homeowner, so they don't have to make payments for 12 months. Because usually they're in a tough situation, so this gives them time to get back on their feet, pay off other high interest debts, build up some reserves. and then we work with them to rebuild their credit. So after 12 months, the goal is to refinance them into an FHA loan.
So you've got somebody who's in a pre-foreclosure situation. They are, behind on some sort of, behind, they've got some arrears. And so you go in with a hard money loan and you buy the property and you pay off the old mortgage, catch up the arrears. And then you put the property, you said, in an LLC. So that LLC is owned 100% by your company. Yes.
And the investors, correct. We have control of that.
And for the people who might be listening to this, what you might not know is that there are basically no lenders are going to give somebody a mortgage if they have lates in the last 12 months. Now, doing an FHA loan, you can if you've made 12 on-time payments. So basically, you're almost pre-qualifying them in a way. So in 12 months, they are pre-qualified for that FHA loan, and you're just refinancing yourself back out of the deal. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we are here to help, these families. We're not here to take advantage of them, which unfortunately there are people who, do. So first of all, when we buy their property, we buy it for a full appraised offer. So it's not a low ball offer or anything like that. And then, we set aside 12 months payments so they can have 12 on-time payments, like you said. And then we work with them to, the goal is to refinance them after a year. But then realistically, only about 10% of the people get to do that because unfortunately, some of these people are not the most responsible and they're kind of in the situation for a reason. But if they want to work with us, like we can give them another year. And after 2 years, probably about 40% of the people stay in their homes, which is awesome. But the other 60% still sell. But not only do we protect their equity, we also protect their appreciation. Because even if it's like $1 million home, let's say 5% appreciation a year, over 2 years, that's $100,000 right there. And they are, by the time they get to us, after they get denied by a loan mod, usually their foreclosure date's pretty soon, within a week or sometimes days. So they've already tried other options and they're probably going to lose their equity to the bank anyways. That's kind of what we love to do. But the investors are out when we come in and do the purchase. So within 30 days, the investors are out. Everything else we do, that's kind of us working with the homeowner. So investors, because it's a transactional situation where their funds, for the down payment part, their funds stay in escrow and never leaves escrow. In our exit strategy with the hard money loan, as you know, Johnny, hard money loans are a lot easier than, let's say, conventional loans. And we actually have a $5 million credit line that does not even require an appraisal. So it's pretty, I would say nothing is risk-free, but it's, as close as it gets, I think.
Yeah, there can always be something. When I was raising capital for a syndicator, I'd get on these calls and I'd go through the entire deck and they would ask, well, is this money, is it guaranteed? Tell everybody, man, it's real estate. There's no, even when we think it's guaranteed, it's not guaranteed.
True, the banks, they all do, yeah.
That's a really cool, and that's what's funny about being an investor is that, or being somebody who's outside of the investing circle, is that you don't even realize that there's all these ways to make money in this space.
Yeah, I mean, there's the reason after I joined, sub to Gator and then especially Owners Club and also just meeting people like you, the biggest thing I would say is just being around people doing real estate at a high level, and learning from people who, are where you want to be is, I think, the biggest factor in what I've been able to accomplish by God's grace in 11 months. Because if I was trying to figure this out on my own, there would have been no way for sure. That's why I think I love your, wholesale blueprint. You're so successful and you're a great guy to learn from. So if anybody wants to, learn wholesaling, I would definitely join Johnny's program.
I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, no, everybody has the same story. They're stuck in their 9-to-5. They can't make any money. They got people that they have to provide for, and they don't know how to get started. And so for me, I'm like, I am going to make the easiest course you could ever follow in your entire life. I'm going to tell you step by step how to get your first deal. That's what it's all about, being an investor. I love about what you do. Bro, you can probably do what you do part-time, on the weekends, after hours. You were doing that initially when you got started. And now look, dude, you're crushing it in the space because you started.
No, I love that, man. I love your passion and it really comes through. And I love that you are one of those people who are genuinely more happy than they are when they succeed. I can tell that. I know that. And I think you have those two key ingredients, Johnny. For anybody who is looking to start, who does need money quick, wholesaling is a great way, but you have the blueprint, you have the ABC, broken down, like you said, the easiest way to make money, but you also are a leader that people can learn from, that genuinely want people to succeed. Because there's a lot of people out there who, number one, don't know what the heck they're doing, right? They're just talking theory, or maybe they know what they're doing, but they're in it for themselves. They're not really trying to lift people up and help people break through. So both of those are not. If you don't have either piece, that's not a good environment to invest your time and money to. But I think that's what I love about you, Johnny, because you genuinely love people. You want to help people. You know how to get from A to B, and you break it down into basic steps. And again, we're not saying by any means it's easy. It's not, right? Everything takes hard work in life. There's no easy free lunch or whatever silver bullet. But to your point, Johnny, I think the freedom that when it clicked for me was August 15th. That's our anniversary. When I was trying to look, so we were trying to book like a little staycation, getaway. And I was stuck in my 9 to 5 mindset. Oh, I have to book it on Friday night, Saturday, because, Monday I have to be available for my clients, mortgage, how it is. But then all of a sudden he's like, wait a second, I have a lot to do, but I can schedule things whenever I want. I don't have to do that anymore. Now I can book it on, and I can take my kids to Disneyland on a Wednesday not when it's so crowded, right? That's the freedom, and there's a joy in that, Johnny, that I'm sure you know about that. I really want people that's my passion too, to help people break free from their 9 to 5, because when you experience that freedom, and then to your point, like you have a hope, right? Because as you wholesale or capital raise, whatever, you build up deals, and then you find deals. Sometimes they're really good deals that maybe you just want to buy and hold. Maybe it's a really good flip and you can make like 100 grand, 200 grand. I know some people make 300 grand on a wholesale deal or whatever, or you want to buy and hold for cash flow. That's as you do that over time, you pick up, 1, 2, 3, 4 properties a year over 10, 15, 20 years. That's your retirement plan, right? And there's also, when being in this space, you just meet incredible people who have all kinds of like investment opportunities, and you just kind of learn. What I say is I've been learning what the wealthy people do and just trying to copy it, right? Like their tax strategies, what they invest in, and even how they're very strategic about their time. Like they're all about buying back their time. Really, like even something I've recently learned is decision fatigue. We only have a certain brain capacity to make a certain number of decisions a day. So if I have to, decide on like what I'm going to wear and what I'm going to book my flight and this, but if I have somebody that can take over all of that and I can focus all my energy on the 20% of my business that gives me a 10x growth, that's how you can buy back your time, but also just make more money. So 2 books that I've just finished that are awesome is 10x is easier than 2x, Who Not How. So yeah, just, the mindset, the shift is just, it's very important too.
Can you just talk about maybe some of the value or some of the lessons that you've had access to in some of these mentorships, some of the stuff that might stand out? Let's say like advice that you'd probably give to like one of your kids, right? So, what is something that you've learned in like maybe Owners Club or some of the other groups that you're in that you feel like really stands out that the audience maybe should know?
Well, I mean, I think you kind of just hit it. Like Jim Quick says, I just joined this speed reading program, and in 3 days, I increased my speed by 50%. So he says leaders are readers, right? You can literally take any book, any topic, somebody who's lived, an expert in that field who's crushing it. There are decades of experience. You can download it. They put it in a book so you can download it into your brain within like a week. It's like, bro, that's like, why wouldn't you read? So I think reading is huge. Just tax strategies are really important because as we make money, there's so many legal strategies like bonus depreciation, so many benefits of starting, setting up an LLC that you can write off a bunch of stuff. Because the more money you can save, the more money you have to invest, right? And so basically what you can do is with the right strategies, especially bonus depreciation, is you can take the money you're already going to pay the IRS and just use it to buy property at a huge discount. So for example, last year, my partners and I bought a Airbnb in Medford, Oregon, we took over a 2.25% rate on a VA loan, and I paid $80,000 for it, but then I got a bonus depreciation tax deduction of $136,000. So that saved me 60 grand in taxes. So really, I just paid net 20 grand for that property. And I walked into, my portion was like $103,000 in equity, and it cash flows all of that. So I would say just, again, learning from the wealthy people, learning the mindset, because, if you don't change your mindset and you keep thinking your old ways, your W-2 ways, it's really hard for you to do something new and grow. But then also just like joining the right mentorships, like, again, just like your blue, whatever you feel like your direction is, your avatar, just find somebody who's really, really good at that, who's a really good person, and just follow what they do and just do it. Just focus on one thing or 2 things. Don't try to do too many things at once. I think that's probably my problem. But then also just social media, because let me talk a little bit about that. I think that's been one of the biggest benefits of influence or results, because all of my investors, all directly or indirectly, come from social media. Meaning like these are people who I knew from like 3 churches ago. I've been talking to for 7 years. They'll call me and say, hey, I've been secretly stalking you. Never liked my post, never commented, but he's like, I want to invest in your deal, right? So, and I don't have a lot of followers, but to your point, like you don't need a lot of followers to be effective, right? Because how many investors do I really need, or do you really need? Maybe like 100, right? We don't need 10,000 followers for that. But what personal branding and marketing does with social media is it's an attraction mechanism, whereas sales or you prospecting, calling, is an outreach mechanism. So, we've done cold calls, right? So you have to go through so many people to get a sale or to get an investor or get a deal because there's not trust. But when you just put out content, and we could talk about the philosophy of content and how to use it all about adding value, which is, I love your content, Johnny, by the way. It's very inspirational. It gives a lot of value. But when you do that consistently, what that does is it builds trust and automates trust. And then when people are ready, they'll just raise their hand. So now they're coming to you, trust is already built. So the conversion is almost just natural because they already know who you are. They already know what you're about. And it's so much easier now that by God's grace, I just started social media a year and a half ago. I only have like 6,000 followers, so it's not a lot by any means, right? But like now it's at a point where I'm just able to attract investors, and I don't have to like just cold outreach people. So it's a whole game changer, I would say.
For me, it's always been consistency, right? It's like I'm busy, I'm not busy, and then I think what I decided probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, who knows? Sometimes I'm hot, sometimes I'm cold, is that I just want to have fun with it. And I think there was a period of time where you could go on social media and there was kind of this, value add thing where it's like everyone's trying to like prove that they know things and be like, inspirational and try value and that's still good, I think, for like a lot of people. But for me now, I just want to have fun on social media. I want people to know who I am. And this is kind of what I decided maybe 6 months. Don't get me wrong. Like I do, like, last night I posted about, it would definitely fall in the inspirational category, but I was talking about what if you don't do things. And I actually got that from Pace. He did his goal training Zoom a few weeks ago or months ago. I don't know if you watched it. It was real good. But what Pace did was he, asked yourself what happens if I don't do it. So one time, a couple years ago, I couldn't afford to put my daughter in club volleyball. And it was, bro, when you're a dad and you can't do
Hurt.
that, man,
Yeah,
it hurts,
that
man.
hurts.
I don't even want to think about it. It's horrible, you know? And, or it's, spring break and you can't take your kids anywhere, bro. And, you see your friends and all I can think is, look, my kids are happy, bro. They're going to sit in their bed and they're going to play Nintendo, whatever they play on their phones or, they're going to go do, lay out by the pool or whatever, hang out with their friends. They're going to be happy. But me, I just think to myself, man, I can't pay for them to have this experience. And that, bro, that just cuts deep, dude. It just cuts so deep because you can't get the time back. The time's gone. Missed opportunity, their 14-year-old spring break time is gone. I will never get the opportunity to do it again. And that's because dad couldn't provide. That hurts, man. And when you can put that next to your goals, my goals are this, this, and this. And if I don't do this, as a matter of fact, when I was running last night, I didn't want to make the post. But I asked myself, I'm like, what happens if I don't post this?
I love that.
And what happens for me is people don't know me. They don't know me. And if they don't know me, they're not going to want to do business with me.
Oh, Johnny, I love that because like we were talking about, right? Just you making that one post or you being consistent, which consistency is super rare. That's probably the rarest thing. That's probably one of the biggest things I've learned in social media is if you're just consistent, there's not a lot of people at the top right there, and then you build that trust with the consistency. A lot of us think like, oh, I have to make a post that's super interesting or super wow. Like, no, like you being consistent is the wow. Because again, there's so few people who do that. And then your story is a perfect example how your consistency just built that trust and helped you get that deal, right? And the second thing I want to touch on is Pace taught us your light went off. Should I wait?
Yep. Go ahead. Sorry, bro.
Yeah. The other thing I love what you said is Pace taught us when I joined the Gator program, like in the training, he said the first year or two, don't worry about the money. Focus on long-term about the skills you're going to acquire, the relationships you're going to build, the knowledge. He's like, if you took everything away from me and dropped me in the middle of nowhere, I can make deals happen because of my relationships, my skill, my knowledge. So kind of what you're saying, like some people are so short-sighted, like I want a deal, I want whatever. And to your point, they don't bring a lot of value. None of us do when we first, right? But then when you come off as that person, people just aren't going to want to work with you, right? Whereas like, if you're like, hey, I'm acknowledging the value that I'm getting from just working with someone like you, Johnny, and you're teaching me all this stuff and like just a learning experience. I don't care if I make very little money the first year or second year even, but if I learn how to do it, the skill and build the relationships and build the relationship with someone like you and your network, then man, like the next, 3 to 5 to 10 years, like I'll make that, in droves. So I think that's such a great point you made.
Yeah, it's so clever to be thinking long term, and that's the problem I think with that wholesalers get into, or new wholesalers, or guys who are trying to break into the market, is they are short-sighted, and they're looking for that big clip, because they see guys like, oh, I made 50 grand, made 80 grand, made 12 grand, whatever. They see that and they think, I want that and I need.
Yeah, you just got to take one step at a time and God will direct you, or you'll just kind of figure out, hey, this is not right, so I'm going to try this. But if you don't take action and steps, you're never going to find out you find your path basically.
Well, listen, brother, this has been awesome. I knew this was going to be awesome. I knew it was going to be great, hanging out with you and, picking your brain. I could probably talk to you for another 5 hours. I won't. I'm going to honor your time, but I'm so grateful that you stopped by here. If there's anything that you want to share, just in terms of like, where can people find you, maybe some projects you've got going on, I'd love for you to spend a couple minutes just, doing that for the audience would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, best way to reach me is Instagram. My handle's right there on the screen at JoshuaSun26. I mean, just DM me. I'll be happy to share with you. By God's grace, we are getting good deal flow. We just filled 5 this week. We got 3 over the weekend. We got like 10 the last 2 weeks. We're trying to ramp up to about, God willing, 30 deals a week. So there's a lot of good opportunities. We do generate really good returns. So yeah, reach out. I'll be happy to share some more information. I think the biggest thing, Johnny, is the fulfillment that you get from saving somebody's home. So right before Christmas, there was an old couple in Delaware. They didn't have any family. The sheriff was being very aggressive with the eviction. And by God's grace, an investor who came in and saved that deal, they got to stay in their house through the holidays and through New Year's. If that had not happened, who knows, they may have, best case, had to go to a hotel and leave all their stuff, or worst case, they may have even been on the streets. So just the kind of stories you get to be a part of and real impact that you make as an investor and what we do, like, really gives you a fulfillment that far exceeds even the great returns that we get.
Joshua, I definitely appreciate you, brother. I, going to pray for you, your family, health, happiness, abundant blessings, bro. I definitely appreciate you dropping in and blessing us with the knowledge, bro.
Yeah,
thank you.
Likewise, man. Much love and respect, Johnny. Keep doing what you're doing, helping people. And praise God for you, brother, and pray for you as well.